idea come to life. Join us as we go behind the door.
Good evening, roomies, and welcome back to a special bonus edition of Behind the Door with the Grey Rooms podcast. I'm your host and live from my bedroom, Arthur Unk. The tables have turned. For one special night, I've put down the pen and picked up the mic. With me tonight is my dear friend and Thunder buddy, Brooks Bigley, the host of the interview show on the Grey Rooms podcast. You may have heard of it. It's entitled Behind the Door. How are you this evening, Brooks?
It's weird to be on this other side of the door, but I'm doing fucking fantastic. Thank you. How are you, Arthur?
Oh, just hanging out, getting rained on, enjoying the wonders that is the inside of my domicile today.
Yeah, hanging out in your bedroom during a thunderstorm. Sounds like what we all did as kids.
Well, I had to recreate some of that first season magic.
It's nice and sunny over here. It's like 85, so I'm drinking a cold beer to calm my spirits here.
Well, of course, it's always sunny in California. Why do you think I didn't ask you about the weather? It's always sunny. It's always warm. It's always, California.
Yeah, it's absolutely fucking terrible, isn't it? People hate California. Nobody wants to live here. It's ridiculous. It's not like we have like 14 million people here.
Oh, it's one of the most beautiful places I've ever visited. I don't think I could ever live there, though.
It's all right. Actually, that's a very common thing that many people say. They love to visit, but they really wouldn't. I mean, the taxes are pretty ridiculous out here. We have a massive infrastructure, so we got to pay for it all somehow.
I used to drive semis, and every time I'd go into California, I'd always get stopped and harassed by the California police. What's in your truck? What's in your truck? Open up your truck.
Is that where you got some of your... Oh, that's right, you did. You got some of your ideas for, was it The Ride? Or something. I swear you had told us before in a Behind the Door about your truck driving experiences influencing something in one of your writings.
That's cool and all, but this isn't about me. It's about you, Brooks.
Man, I'm going into question mode already. My bad. Let me go into answer mode now.
Nope. I got you, Brooks. I got you. So, I do have some burning questions that I feel that everyone would benefit from. So I need you to prepare your brain as we dive deep inside. Brooks, head.
It's so echoey in here. What are you trying to imply?
I don't know. That you got a lot of space to work with? You got a big brain?
Yes.
I don't know.
Sure. Ask away, my friend.
Absolutely. So, as you know, the Grey Rooms podcast just hit an amazing milestone. We hit our 2 million downloads mark. So, congrats to everybody. And I just wanted to know your thoughts on reaching the 2 million downloads mark.
I mean, it shows how much we're loved as a podcast, that we're doing something correct, that we're making a product that has been downloaded 2 million times. I mean, that's definitely a feat. I know that, I've had a couple family members maybe make up about a couple 100,000 of that at least. But I know you've definitely downloaded a couple of your episodes at least 300,000 or 400,000 times, so that's why we've made it as far as we have today. But
well, I just set up my Spotify playlist when I go to sleep just to repeat over and over again.
There you go. Hey, it's not a play count. It's definitely a download count. But yeah, seriously, it shows that we've made something that really hits in the podcast community. We see it all the time with all of our fans on Discord and in social media, just how much this podcast does mean to them, how much meaning, they get out of it, and our interactions with authors show how important it is even as an outlet for, people to write. So, I mean, for us to hit 2 million, thank you. I'm not surprised, and I don't mean that in some kind of like pompous way, but I'm not surprised. We have a good thing going here.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you could just see that all the pieces are clicking every day. We always got everything right where it needs to be, and that's what I really love about it, because it really translates across, and I mean, it's amazing.
Comes together like Voltron. Absolutely.
So, we've recently had GreyCon also down in Nashville. We all got together to connect and meet space. I want to know, Have your opinions about us as staff changed, or has it solidified what you think about us after getting to see us in person?
Well, it's changed and solidified. It's made me feel more like we're all family because we did get to meet, in Meat Space. And it was interesting, like with you to sit, and hammer out our season 5, figuring out what stories we needed and all of that, and be able to see all of the facial expressions and the body expressions that you don't get if you're just doing a meeting, through Zoom or something. There's just ways that you can interact fully in real time that you cannot replicate over the phone or over an internet connection. So I felt so comfortable in that physical space with the whole team that we were just old college buddies that hadn't seen each other in a while, and we were getting together again to take care of something. So it definitely solidified to me we really do work well together. There was not, to me, in my own feeling, there was no weirdness or uncomfortableness, about anything. It was very intuitive, I felt, how we sat together in real space and dealt with everything together.
Oh, yeah. I got to introduce you to the Kroger, our local Midwestern grocery stores.
I mean, they're all the same, right? I mean, a grocery store is a grocery store. I couldn't remember a single thing in Nashville that I was like, oh, this is totally different than where I'm from, other than maybe just the liveliness of all. Man, there's a shit ton of bars in Nashville. Every other building was like a bar. That's what threw me a little bit when we were walking around downtown.
Well, it is the Midwest, Brooks. We don't have anything pretty to look at, so we drink.
That makes everything pretty. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. So you've been burning the midnight oil, doing all this behind-the-scenes stuff and so much other things. Is there any particular moment from this current season that sticks out as a favorite moment for you?
Hell yeah, it's when you joined the team. I mean, honestly, not to blow smoke up your ass, but Zanke was amazing at what he was writing, and he created this massive giant world for us, and then due to time constraints and other obligations, he couldn't work as well with us anymore, and so he needed to, take a step back from it all. And that feeling of oh shit, what are we gonna do here? We're losing our co-captain of this boat, this ship. What's gonna happen now? I knew for a while that we kept talking before you joined the team, what about Arthur though? What about bringing him on? We think, he writes this way and he's so interactive. He knows everything about the characters and the show. He is already a writer without being a writer. He knows too much. Interacting with you for the short couple of weeks before you were actually told that you were brought on was hard for me to keep tight-lipped because I was so excited, to know that you were about to become a part of the team. I've always definitely enjoyed your company and your spirit, and so knowing that was a very exciting moment for me. I absolutely felt that even if Zanke stayed on, there was some way that we needed to bring you into the fold anyways, because you would just bring such a bigger, larger body of talent, to this entire podcast, to the story, to the main characters. So that was my favorite moment.
Well, I appreciate that. I did notice when we were down in Nashville, which was, by the way, my favorite moment of the season, getting to meet everybody. So many big personalities under one roof. I got to admit, I was a little scared to meet you guys. Not because I was afraid of what I might say or do, but I was just scared of all of our personalities all being under one roof. And I was just surprised how we just gelled. It's we just clicked, we knew each other forever.
Yeah, that's what I mean about that feeling of it being very intuitive, that nobody was whoa, Arthur, settle down with your ideas over there. That's not how we do it here at the Grey Rooms. There was no single possession of the podcast, and this is all Jason's dream or / nightmare that has turned into this podcast. This is, by default, this is his podcast. And even Jason isn't shares in that, and he's like, what do you have to say about this? He trusts us as a family to uphold the greater mission of this podcast. So yeah, even with our big giant personalities, interacting with each other, it worked so normally, and you fit in immediately, in my opinion. You were also, it seemed very comfortable, I thought, and then you were revealing otherwise, but I thought you felt pretty comfortable sitting with us and adding. You never like stopped yourself or were like, oh, maybe I shouldn't say this or blah blah blah. I felt like you were really good at commanding the presence that you needed to get your new job done with the podcast. So absolutely, we're a big family now.
Oh yeah, one big happy family. So I know that was your favorite moment from the season, but do you have a favorite story moment from the season? Because I know you have to go through all these stories before you have to talk to the authors. You read them, you re-listen to them. Do you have a favorite story moment?
I think one thing that I've learned. Each time I feel like I've hit like, whoa, this story is the best. This story is my favorite. Another story will come along and I'll talk to that author. And then it's like, oh, wait, no, now this is my favorite. So I think that I've learned, not that I'm saying that they're all my favorite, but maybe I should stop saying that out loud, because invariably I'm going to hit upon my next favorite. I definitely love all of our stories. But to pin it down to a single one, I don't know. I think what I could say is that in terms of my favorite interview, I would say that my favorite interview for me was interviewing Matthew Fowler, just because he was an older gentleman that doesn't necessarily listen to podcasts and doesn't necessarily really partake in today's type of horror, and yet he was able to craft a really interesting story that to me brought all this nostalgia back from like the days of the original Twilight Zone episodes of just like classic horror. And so talking with him, I was very excited and happy to share in this very intelligent and full of wisdom individual who could talk to me about how he felt about horror, and he had decades worth of things to say about horror. So that would have been my favorite interview.
Nice. So would he also be your favorite, or not your favorite, but your guest that you'd want to have dinner and a conversation with?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Because again, he had just the style of how he would talk that I really much enjoyed, and I myself just can ramble on and on and on. So to meet someone who has a lot to say as well, I feel like would be my match. And so yeah, sitting down to dinner with him would have been a very, very interesting experience, especially because, like I said, the level of wisdom that I felt that he had would just... I feel like our conversation would just continue to unfold because I would continue to find more questions to ask and, more things to talk about.
Oh, yeah. Me and him have messaged a few times back and forth on Discord, and he always, I'm not saying he throws me a curveball every once in a while, but I definitely have to sit down and I'm like thinking about my response to him, because I'm like, wow, there's just, this could be going any number of ways. I'm like, I love it.
Yeah, he deserves a proper response to what he's talking about. Yeah, he is a very, high intelligence to his conversation.
Yeah. So Matt, if this ever reaches your ears, we love you.
Very much.
So that kind of leads me into some questions that I've always wondered about. I got a little taste of it beforehand, but there's a lot of preparation that goes into Behind the Door. What sort of is your process, like either getting in your headspace or things that you have to do before you sit down and you talk with, it's basically once a week. You're talking to a new author every week. So how do you prepare for these interviews?
So I really have to be dialed in to the story because I don't know what the author is going to say to me about the story or what they might reference. And I for sure want to be able to reference all of the things to ask them questions. So usually right before, like the day of, and then a few hours prior to the interview that I have with each author. I will listen to the story twice just to keep it fresh, the audio of it in my head, so that I can reference things that Jason did, or if they mentioned something they liked about, hearing the story. And then I also will listen to it as I'm reading the script, and then I will just read the script by itself to the episode at least 2 or 3 times that day. So like that, just it's like taking a test and preparing for your test. So that almost like I'm the one taking the test, and I don't know what the author is going to say or ask or describe, but I want to be able to say, oh, but then your character this. Oh, that's just like this other part of the story where this happened. And I got to keep it all fresh in my brain, to accomplish that. So like I said, listen to the story multiple times and read the script several times the day of the interview is what I do.
What would you say is the biggest difference between when you're actually listening to the episode and reading the script? Because I know you've approached me and some other people a couple of times, because sometimes the script don't match what comes out at the end.
Right. Well, it's the same as watching like a movie version, I think, of a book when you're reading the book. So when I'm reading the script, my brain will make what the character looks like. For me, make what the voice might sound like, craft what the scene looks like in my head. And then when I hear the story, well, this is now kind of Jason's interpretation of what the scene looks like. And then it's the interpretation of the voice actor who plays the character, who might be more jovial with the words, where in my head he might have been more serious, something like that. There's a lot of different nuances. So the difference that I see is like reading the script first, hearing the story, or sometimes I've read the script so long ago, and then the story comes along, I hear the story first and go back to read the script. I guess it doesn't work exactly the same, because then the script is just reminding me of what I heard in the story. But for sure, when I read the script first, it definitely always differs. And so that's fun, because I get from the script what I, interpret, and then hearing the audio kind of fills in, and then, changes and then ultimately solidifies the entire story for me.
Right. And I know you've interviewed myself and Zinke during this season. Is there a difference between, like, when you read a script from one of our door authors versus something like me or Zinke pushed out this season? Is there a difference between that?
Oh, for sure. I mean, when you hear an author write their story, their door, it's always a wildly different voice from the prior author. Every author is very unique and individualistic, and you get all kinds of different shades in terms of how the story unfolds, how the characters are created, how much detail versus pulled back looking, objectively at the whole thing the story is told. But when it's either reading the narrative script that Zenke writes or that you write, it's much more dialed in. It's those same characters, those characters that we love, that we come back for every week. Like Bob is Bob always. And Bob will change as he grows and learns new things. And that's based upon how, you and Zenke, or, even in the first season, how Brian had written Bob. But it's still Bob. And so you get a certain satisfaction from hearing the different ways that Bob has been written and how he's evolving. But that's a separate, I think, how would you say this? It's a separate enjoyment from the anthology style of each unique author telling their story.
Well, for me, it's anthology versus a serialization. Oh my God, I can't pronounce words today. Serialization. It's like pronouncing the college name of Loyola. I have to say it really slow.
Loyola.
Yeah, I can't say that word real fast. But for me, it's the difference between a what we call a one-off, like a standalone story, and something that is going to continue forward. It's like you mentioned with the familiar characters, these people are going to be coming back in some shape or form. Well, most of them anyway. We'll get to that a little bit later.
R.I.P. Todd.
Yeah, R.I.P. Todd, and a few others. But that's really the difference in my mind is you can't really, when you hear a door story, it has a beginning and an end. And then when you hear the frame story, the narrative story that we got pushing through, you're like, oh, well, what's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? You know,
Right.
there's this expectation.
Yeah, you connect with the narrative characters like they're part of your family, and you're vested in knowing that they're just going to continue going, like whatever their path is. Whereas with an anthology, like you said, there's a beginning and there's an end. So you will invest in that, but you know that you're just invested for the short term. You're just invested to see what the conclusion is. Nobody is like, damn, I've been listening to Bob for 4 years to figure out what the hell is going to happen to him at the end, because you don't have a family member where you're just waiting for them to die. You know, you're just every day you're like, oh yeah, that's my family member, and what are we doing today? What exciting stuff is ahead of us? When you listen to the anthology stories, yeah, you're more like, okay, I'm invested in this to the end to see how it concludes.
Yeah, so from talking with 4 seasons of authors from all different walks of life, what have you learned about the creative writing process? Like, what's one of the more exciting things that, like, maybe you didn't realize, or what's something that you've learned about maybe just writing in general that is that you didn't know before?
So what I have seen and witnessed is that there are some authors who they are good at just coming up with a plot, fleshing out the plot, making a really fun plot that translates well to audio. Like, you know, it's a great horror story. There are other authors who dump their soul into these characters, and they are dealing with something of their own, getting that story out, you know, and that happens to be a lot of our newer authors. I feel that there's something in their real day-to-day life that they're working through, and them writing the story that we've turned into an audio drama has helped them kind of either overcome something or to see something new about themselves, versus just the authors who are just kind of, oh, I'm just writing a blockbuster here. You know, I know this is going to get turned into an audio drama, so boom, here you go. I wrote this. Here you go. This is a new story. So I've seen kind of the gamut of how different authors function, you know, and I don't yet know whether the authors who just know how to just write blockbuster after blockbuster came from that, where their early stories were much more personal. And I for sure know that even if you've written 100 stories, when you write that 101st story, you can still be personal about it and put you know, your own feelings into it. So I don't mean to detract and say that, you know, established authors don't do that anymore. But I definitely feel like our newer authors, or the ones that haven't done too many things yet and are working, they're figuring out what they are as an author. There's definitely a difference to their stories in terms of just how they craft that ultimate theme that's running through their door, basically.
Nice. So what is it exactly that got you either excited or interested in podcasting in general? Like, what started this whole journey for you? Where did it begin for Brooks Bigley?
So, I mean, I briefly touched on this, I think, either the last or the second to last Behind the Door. But when I was growing up, I listened to a man named Joe Frank, and he was from the 80s and the 90s, and I don't know if he was AM or FM. I think I heard his stuff on FM when I was a little kid at night. But he would basically write stories and then narrate them, and then just have just very simple, not spooky, but just very dark ambiance in the background. And his stories were just very fantastical. Like, one story was just about a guy who would look out his window all the time at some woman that he saw in the window of the apartment building across the street. And then he was just forming in his mind what the story was behind this woman that he would see every day. He would get glimpses of her through her window. And then ultimately wanting to meet her and bring flowers to her, but he had to figure out what her apartment was. And then suddenly he wasn't seeing her in the window anymore. And so he was afraid that she must have moved. So he was creating this whole narrative of this person. And I just found stories like that to be fascinating, because Joe Frank had this very steady, deep voice that he would narrate it as. He wouldn't act differently for different characters. It was a very steady voice, and he would just set the mood with this dark ambient sound. And so I don't know, maybe it must have been early 2010s when I was like, oh, podcasts, that's where they just talk about shit, right? And someone, maybe it wasn't even a person. It might have just been, because I've always loved horror. So for sure, No Sleep was one of the very first podcasts I listened to. And so it might have been like 2012 or 13. They were only maybe a couple seasons in, like 3 or 4. So they were new. And I was like, what is this? There's music and they're acting, but it's scary. But it's not just silly monster horror. It's speculative fiction, so it seems like shit that could happen to me.
I'm starting to get Disney vibes from you. What's this? What's this? Or no, wait, that was.
I'm gonna start singing a song.
No, that was Nightmare Before Christmas.
Right. Yeah.
Not Disney, but Tim Burton. Tim Burton.
What's this? Yeah.
Yeah. You're like, oh my God, what's this?
I was very tantalized by this new medium of podcasting. And then I realized, wait a minute, I can download this to my phone and I can listen to it in the car on my commute. I can listen to it, in an earbud while I work. It's very passive. I can do it while doing other things, but still, mostly focus on it. And so it suddenly wasn't just that podcasting was just a bunch of sports guys talking about sports or a bunch of, people talking about the news in their own version. I realized what audio drama was. And it was rekindling that love that I had for Joe Frank. And also I listened to Abbott and Costello. Laurel and Hardy were more visual. I used to watch Laurel and Hardy stuff on TV, but I used to love listening to Abbott and Costello. My grandma introduced me to them, and she had a bunch of old tapes of Abbott and Costello. So I wouldn't call that audio drama, but listening to people put together entertainment versus watching it has always been a part of my life. And so once podcasting came along and I was ultimately exposed to it through horror, I was like, fuck, I'm all in. Let's do this.
Hell yeah. So what would you say is the biggest inspiration behind the way you interview your guests now? Like, what did you take from those podcasts and how do you incorporate it into the way you interview people for Behind the Door?
I mean, I don't know if I've ever married the two, because with me interviewing authors, and I didn't just come into the gray rooms like, I know how to interview authors. Give me a job. Let me do this. Like, this was an evolution of me just clowning around with the team so that we could just discuss the story that we made in season 1. And ultimately it was season 3 where it turned into just me being the solo host and just having just the author on, sometimes the actor. What I have learned from that process, I think, is how it's that authors have a story to tell. And I mean that in the way that every person has a story to tell, but our authors have figured out how to put it down on paper, per se, what that story is. And I want to hear that story, but I don't just mean that let's just talk about your horror story itself and then, hang up the phone, per se. It's like, well, why did you write this horror story? What happened to you that made you think to write this horror story? And so I've learned how there are so many other things that go into why a person writes a thing that they write. And I think I've kind of learned how to maybe, pluck at those strings a little bit to kind of get more, sound out of that. Versus just, like I said, the very generic, just like, ha ha ha, that was funny how you made that sound effect, Jason. Aha, I love that music jam that we used to do in the first season.
We were so happy. We're like, this is awesome. I'm doing this for my kitchen.
Right. You were part of that season 1 too. There was an interview. I wasn't in that particular interview, but yeah, when you did Ice Station Bravo, I remember just there was no one knew what the hell they were doing interviewing you. And I think wasn't David O. Steele also in that interview?
It was me, Brian Black, David O. Steele, and Michael Riggs was the host.
That's right.
So
that's right.
Michael Riggs is an awesome, awesome person. And
yeah.
I think he did
as an actor and a writer.
Yeah, he did the Copper Heart and a couple other things that are slipping my brain at the moment. But Michael Riggs was an awesome person. I remember that day, and it was just like hanging out with your best friends. And it was, I'll be honest with you. I kind of wanted to impress people because I was like, this is my first interview ever. So I might have been a little bit extra. I don't know.
It's Michael Rigg, by the way. There's no S.
Oh, my God. He's going to find me now and kill me. I'm sorry,
you're dead.
Mike, if you can forgive me, please. Forgive me. I'm sorry.
Duly noted. Yeah. So the concept back then of just having 6 people chatting about the story, I mean, it worked, I guess. I don't know. We got a lot of funny stuff on social media, like, it's so boring to listen to Behind the Door, and all they do is self-congratulate each other and pat each other on the back. You know, this is not fun.
What I think the big thing was, too, is, let's admit it, some authors are weirdos. So you always had another person there in case the author was just, you know, too far above and beyond what was needed for the moment. So...
Well, what does that say about when I interview you, though? You're a weirdo. We don't have anyone as a contingency plan.
Yeah, but you know, I'm special. I fall into that special group. I probably need a helmet too.
You're the best weirdo. I love you. It's okay.
Yeah, I know. We're Thunder Buddies. I get it.
There you go. Yes.
So, what do you tell your friends and family about the work that you do for the Grey Rooms? Are you just like, oh, I'm the interview guy, or you know, what does Synergy think about what you do?
She definitely supports what I do. I commonly tell people that, you know, all I do is interview authors that write audio dramas for my podcast, and I help them discuss why they wrote what they wrote, who they are as a writer. You know, I mean, I don't feel like there's anything special I do. If I just sat and talked myself into a microphone, that would be very boring very quickly. I'm not the main center of entertainment. It's not about me. It's about the person that I'm talking to. You know, so I commonly tell people that I just happen to help be, I guess, like a mouthpiece, you know, for people who are authors, for people who write, that we give a chance for these authors to talk. You know, like, it'd be amazing if the No Sleep even had the time to do that. I mean, they usually have, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 stories per episode a week for them. So that would be a lot of authors to interview. But just in general, I know the Wicked Library either does or used to do something similar where they would have their main story of the week, and then they would interview kind of with the author afterwards. But it was very formal feeling, and they were very professional, and I have no idea how professional I sound or not. I just do what I do. But anyways, I just do tell people that, hey, I work with this horror podcast. We do a lot of suspense thriller stories, not just horror. And my fun job is to get them to talk about what they did and what they do. And that's all that it is. I get other people to talk is what I tell people.
I'm dying to know, who is your favorite Grey Rooms character?
Ooh, I mean, everyone says Bob. So that's like, you got to take that off the table because that's not fair. I think I liked Raymond just because knowing Jason and then knowing how he acted Raymond, it blew my mind that he played Raymond so well that coming from where Jason had only done like regular radio and other things in the past, he was never an actor per se. He just blew my mind with this character of Raymond, because listening to Raymond, I felt the sadness, I felt the confusion, I felt the anguish that he was going through. The entire arc of season 1, nobody would say that Jason phoned it in. And I keep talking about Jason because he made Raymond so real. And it didn't feel like there was an actor playing Raymond. I felt like I was stuck listening to this guy named Raymond go through what he was going through. So it's a testament to what Jason accomplished. But because of that, I think that I connected, and it's not for any other reason. I didn't go through anything that Raymond went through, but I connected so much with that character just based on the acting alone, and just feeling that sadness and connecting to that, like, man, what the fuck is happening to him? He's desperately trying to hang on to his sanity throughout all of this torture and all of this shit happening to him. And, he could be a bit of a pussy about certain things, but he's not. He's just giving in to all of the human emotions. And so, to me, it will always be the classic character that really went through the ringer in the Grey Rooms. Like Samantha's arc, she survived what she was going through. It made her better. It made her stronger. She became an equal to Bob, if not even higher than Bob. Beckett is now a part of the Grey Rooms project, so like he overcame that. So everyone is going through what they need to go through, but to me, Raymond was still that quintessential human that just got fucked with and experienced a lot of shit that maybe we feel in real life when we're frustrated by not understanding what's happening to us in our actual daily lives. And so that's what I connected to. So forever, I think Raymond will be my favorite character of the Grey Rooms.
Exactly. So you mentioned about change. You've mentioned Bob has changed. You've mentioned the rooms have changed. You've mentioned that Behind the Door keeps evolving. What sort of changes or implementations are you thinking about doing for season 5 of Behind the Door? Or is that a secret?
Both. I honestly, because we just finished the season and I just did the last interview with the episode 19 author like a week ago from us recording now, I do have ideas for not changing the format, but just updating the format, but nothing that I think is concrete that I can discuss. I'm very happy with the format of getting the author on and asking the author all the things. Sometimes I miss the group session where we had the author and the actor, so that could always be a possibility. Definitely in general, just having the actors on doesn't happen very often. We do focus mostly on the author, and that wasn't like anything that anyone sat down and said, we should only talk to authors. That's all we are interested in. It just has evolved that way. Because of course, without the authors, we would not have the stories. And yes, without the actors, we wouldn't have a story either, but we would just get other actors. So anyways, I don't know. I'm saying nothing specific here. I have some ideas.
Help!
We'll
He's in a spiral. Pull him out. He's in a spiral.
I'm just going to keep talking if you don't stop me, Arthur.
He doesn't want to tell. He doesn't want to say things. He's dancing.
I'm tight-lipped but still speaking. Yeah, shut me up now.
Oh, yeah. I remember a few things that we've discussed where you dance beautifully around the subject because it hits a little too close to home.
Excellent. You understand my process then. Yes.
Absolutely. So, let's go a little bit deeper. What's your worst memory of Craigbot from this season?
All of them? So, Craigbot is a bot we use on Discord to record our Behind the Door episodes. We all go into a voice channel, and then this bot will record that interview, and then at the end it will give me separate audio files for each person so I can then produce the show. And for whatever reason, and especially this season, Craigbot's like, no, I'm just not gonna play fair. You know what? Oh, you're deep in a really good conversation? Fuck you, I'm gonna disconnect now. So this bot keeps leaving our server in the middle of an interview, and it doesn't make sense. There's no one that we can reach out to and complain about this service. I mean, it is free, so what the hell are you going to do? So I will say this. The interview I did with you and Cassie, it was one of our like narrative wrap-up interviews. We probably talked for a good, and this has happened prior to, but we talked for a good 20 minutes, I think, until I ultimately realized, wait a minute, Craigbot is not even in the voice channel. We've been talking to nothing has been recorded. And we had a fantastic exchange about a couple of things. And so then we had to bring Craigbot back in to record and then try and backtrack and figure out what we had been talking about when he left. I keep saying he, it, the thing, the stupid fucking bot. And I don't know.
Yeah.
It was like we were like rushing through, trying to, you can never get back that organic talk that was missed.
Yeah, you had me running through. You had me running through a field chasing after a goose. So I mean,
Exactly.
yeah, that's lost forever.
And the audio was there; it just wasn't recorded, and so we really missed out on an opportune situation because Craigbot was like, "Oh yeah, whatever. I'm just going to leave this conversation." And I don't know why. I've Googled it. There's no definitive answer as to why these mishaps happen. Sometimes the internet is just a fucking asshole. So,
yeah, hashtag fuck you, Craig.
Yeah. Season 5, we will do it some other way.
All right. Now that I got you all angry and out of sorts, we're going to play a game. Do you want to play a game with me, Brooks?
Yes. With a question mark?
So, this is a fun game we would like to call Would You Rather? So, would you rather, Brooks Bigley, have Todd be the entertainment at your kid's birthday party, or would you rather have the warden cater it?
So the warden would be in charge of like the food?
Food, drinks, anything that people consume.
Okay, so for sure I would rather have Todd be the entertainment because he's just going to make stupid sexual innuendo jokes and mostly just act like a really silly, obnoxious clown. Whereas the warden would probably try to make the kids eat eyeballs and other gross dead body parts. And that's just not a fun thing I think kids need to deal with.
Well, I mean, the warden could bring a certain form of entertainment too, cutting cake with the chainsaw.
Wait. I just feel like he'll do more damage to the psyche of kids. They will hold on. They will need more therapy as they get older by interacting with the warden versus just having Todd be Todd to entertain them.
I'm just imagining it. It's hilarious. So,
you're sadistic.
Yeah, if we stick with our Todd and Warden theme for one more question, would you rather let the warden choose where you get a new piercing or let Todd choose a tattoo for you?
Okay, well, this is a dilemma because, I mean, clearly the warden is going to want me to get a piercing on some kind of genital area or somewhere very painful. But, I mean, that's a once-in-a-lifetime thing that happens, and you just live with it. Todd, for sure, might pick some asinine reason for some asinine tattoo that's very visible, that just makes me look like an ass for the rest of my life. So...
I'm trying to think of what he would pick for a tattoo.
Something sexual, absolutely. Tattoo a dick on your face.
Yeah, a tattoo of Hello Kitty eating a pot of chili.
Oh, I mean, I would rather do that than get certain things pierced. So if that's...
Well, the warden's going to be like, I'm going to pierce you with this chair through your midsection. So
that's what I'm saying. That's exactly. He'd be like, haha, you said piercing. Well, surprise, this is what I'm going to use to pierce you. It would be a thing that you wouldn't ultimately think about. So then, yeah, maybe again I'd pick Todd just because Todd is not inherently evil, so he's not going to do the worst thing. The warden is for sure going to figure out just how to absolutely fuck you up in the worst way possible for the longest time possible. So, fuck the warden. I guess I'd pick the tattoo by Todd. Absolutely.
Fair. So, Brooks Bigley, would you rather be the next guest in the Grey Rooms, or would you rather be the architect's intern?
Ooh, I mean, I really love a strong woman that tells me what to do. I'm just surrounded by them in life, I feel like. So, that almost might be pleasurable to have the architect be my boss.
Well, remember right now, you do have Cries as one of the people in the Grey Room. She could tell you what to do.
I mean, that's not a bad thing. Especially the way you've been writing her lately. What would I pick? This is a quandary. I think I would rather be the architect's bitch. Absolutely. Bring it on.
There you go. You're going to be the next Steve.
Okay,
all right. We got one more and then we'll wind it down. Would you rather have to tell Cassie that you have to push back a release deadline, Or would you rather tell Jason that the audio for his story sucked?
Oh, man. Oh, I mean...
Put you on the spot there.
Telling Jason his audio sucked is a lie, so I could never do that. So I would rather...
She's listening.
Fuck you, Arthur. I would rather tell... Oh, damn it. She's listening. She will listen. She's not currently listening.
Somehow I feel an edit about ready to happen.
No, all of this will stay, including you saying that.
Somehow this question didn't make it. I don't know what happened. We ran out of time.
The interview was only 20 minutes. I'm sorry. I don't know what to say. If I ever said anything to Jason, it would be like, oh, hey, you forgot to clip this portion of this or that. I've never felt like, why the hell did you choose to do this sound? Why did you choose to do it that way? I've never felt that way. So by default, I would probably just be like, Cassie, I can't produce this thing according to the calendar. Please forgive me, blah, 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 blah. So yeah, I'd rather tell Cassie something has to be pushed out or some shit.
All right. Well, as we're winding down, I guess, do you have any social media, or where can we find you outside the Grey Rooms, Brooks?
Ooh, I've never been asked this before. My Instagram and Facebook are very private. I post family pictures and whatnot, so you have to, pretty much know me in real life to find me there. But I can be found on Twitter. How do the kids say it? At
ArthurUnkTweets.com.
I don't have my own website yet at Brooks.com. You can find me at Brooks.Bigley on Twitter. And I'm not active there because, I don't know, I don't really have much to say publicly other than sharing all of the Grey Room stuff. I don't feel like I have anything relevant to add into the pool of actual funny things that most people have to say. Maybe I should do that. Maybe I should just start saying whatever the fuck I feel like saying on my Twitter. I don't know. We'll see. Depends on how many of you at me.
Everybody at Brooks Bigley on Twitter, or come join the Discord. He's on there too.
Yes, there you go. You can find me on the Discord. We're active on the Discord for sure.
All right. Well, it was great of you for joining us tonight, Brooks. I appreciate you taking the time to sit and chat. And I thank you for sharing your world with us here in the Grey Rooms.
Well, thank you for having me, Arthur. I'm a big fan of your show, and I was really excited that you asked me to be here tonight.
You're always, always welcome in my bedroom. And as usual, the biggest thank you goes out to our fans and followers who listen daily and spread the good word of Bob. May you languish, lament, and loathe, but always with love. #stay gray. Take care and enjoy your evening, Brooks.
Thanks, Arthur.
And good night, folks. Bye.
Join us each week after every episode for another edition of Behind the Door.